Hey everyone, it's Tina Reynolds, and I am here with Courtney Bailey-Kanelos, the Sacramento County Registrar of Voters. I can hardly wait. So I met Courtney a couple years ago, I think, our first meeting, and then we got together on a couple other meetings, and I just would not have her job this year. It's like, wow. And so we started this Uptown Studios Live, and I had to have Courtney on, but I told her it would be a couple weeks after the election. Well, it's a month after. So Courtney, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me and for doing this after the election. It's definitely probably would not have time. So now we have time and just happy to be here. So thank you for the invitation.
You survived. You survived. I cannot believe all of the media attention. I mean, I'm a voter and I'm an active proponent of getting people to vote and always have been. But this year was whack. How did it compare? How long have you been in the?
So I've worked at Sacramento County elections for 16 years, and this definitely was unlike any other election we've had. Between COVID, accommodating and working through the COVID precautions, making sure we created a safe environment, to the concerns of fraud and manipulation to our systems and systems nationwide. We really had to be on our game this election. And, I really think it's a community effort. Elections are conducted because of community support and participation. We have 34 full-time staff in our office, and we could not pull off an election with just us 34 folks. So we are so grateful for those that offered locations, our poll workers, our vendors, and even just the general public, the media, Uptown Studios for helping us create voter outreach materials. So it really is a community effort. So we're grateful for everyone's support, and that's why this election was successful in Sacramento County.
Yeah. So you talk about being successful. Tell me, how does it compare to previous elections when you're doing the numbers?
We had a tremendous voter turnout this election with 82% of voters casting a ballot.
What was the percent again?
82%. So we had over 883,000 registered voters and over 729,000 voters that actually cast a ballot, which both of those are record numbers. And we haven't seen over 80% voter turnout since the 1960s. So, and that's when we had 200,000 registered voters. So not only do we have so many voters, but just that turnout, that participation, even, everything obviously from president down to the even local measures and local contests saw record high turnout. So we're very grateful.
So now, what do you do to keep that up for the next election? You have 2 years until the next. How do you think about that? How do you keep people interested?
Yeah, and it's always hard to kind of pinpoint what drives voter turnout. A lot of it is what's on the ballot. Are there competitive contests? Are there interesting candidates? Are there measures like marijuana and kind of other high-profile measures that actually drive voter turnout? Rent control is always a hot issue. So, it really depends on what's on the ballot that will drive turnout, and also the confidence in the system, which we know has obviously been shaken, which really came after Election Day. And we do know there's a lot of voter concerns and concerns about how we conduct elections. So all we can do as election officials, as a public office, is just open up our office, invite the public in, invite public input, and let's work together to try and make sure that everyone knows what we do to maintain the integrity of the election.
Yeah, well, Uptown Studios, we did that vote poster project that was so popular. We had over 36 artists that created posters to stimulate the vote, and it was so effective. In fact, we even had Oak Park Brewing use some of the designs on beer cans. They canned some beer that had right? And so it's like drink and vote. That was what the motto was. And what yours was drink after the vote.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Use alcohol to disinfect and then drink after the
And
vote.
then
That's
and then
right.
drink after the vote. That's right. So did you have many people that came and watched?
We didn't have as many as we thought. We actually prepared for more because there were a lot of questions and concerns. But when it came down to it, when we opened up our doors and said, come in and watch if you have questions or concerns, a lot of folks didn't want to bother. So we definitely had some observers in, especially with the close County Board of Supervisors District 3 contest. We had observers in. And basically, folks are welcome to come in and watch for as long or as little as they want, and they can watch any part of the process. And I do have to, so I just want to give kudos to you, talking about turnout, is that community support, that community input, and engaging our community partners, especially on local a contest like Board of Supervisors, city contests, measures. That is really a testament to you and other community members that work to get out the vote.
There was a lot of energy and a lot of interest. It's just a matter of now taking all of those people that were interested in this election. I think that there's a newfound energy around voting. I really do. And how do you maintain that and continue it into the next election? Is like, I'm going to be having a Zoom meeting with you privately to talk about how can we help during the next election and give us enough time, set up some budget for paid ads. It's just like all of that stuff so that we keep this going, because this is a lot of energy out there. No matter how you vote, it is that you go and you vote. So let's talk about the mail-in ballots. Talk about the history of where we moved to have mail-in ballots here in Sacramento.
Yeah, so with, vote by mail has always been very popular with mail ballots throughout California. We always used to call it absentee. In 2002 is when California moved to allow permanent vote by mail voting, where you get a ballot in the mail every election. And then because it became so popular, they actually changed the term in 2007 from absentee to vote by mail, because voters were taking advantage of it, because it was easier, it was convenient, it allowed voters to really take their time to review the ballot and what's on the ballot. And since 2008, we've seen over 50% of our voters use the mail ballot system. That's one of the reasons why in 2017, our board approved us to move to the Voters' Choice Act, which was a new voting model that allowed for all voters to automatically receive a ballot in the mail and still set up in-person voting locations. But this time they were set up over multiple days instead of election day only. And voters or Sacramento County residents could go to any location in the county to be able to vote or even register and vote for the first time. So the Voters' Choice Act was something that Sacramento County moved to even before this year, because of what our voters historically took advantage of. And then, with COVID-19 and the entire state moving to mail ballot for this November election, we already kind of had a leg up on the procedures and processes in place. So we were very fortunate moving into this challenging election. And, even with our, I think we had over 46,000 voters vote in person. But with that, we still had about 94% of our voters still chose to use their mail ballot that was mailed to them this election. So whether they mailed it back, dropped it off, however they got it back to us varied, but we still had a lot of our voters use the mail ballot.
And the Voters' Choice Act, how much of a change did that? We helped some during that campaign too, when we were rolling that out. How much of a change did it increase the number of voters? Because that was in 2018. And it was an off-president election. Did that increase the number of ballots for 2016? 2018?
We did see a historic turnout in 2018 for, like you said, the midterm elections, the non-presidential elections. We saw very high turnout, and so did other Voters' Choice Act counties. Sacramento County was the largest of 5 counties to adopt that model in 2018. Since then, I think we're up to 14 counties that took advantage of it in March. Seeing that increased turnout, seeing the increase of the security and the efficiency with the processes, and seeing the cost and resource savings as well for the counties. So, we definitely saw increased voter turnout. Like you said, how do we maintain that is something we'll continue working on moving forward. We do think the fact that every voter gets a ballot automatically mailed to them, it's just that constant reminder that there is an election coming up. Here's the information. Of course, you can choose to vote it or not, or vote on as much or as little as you want. You don't have to vote on every contest. Yeah. So it's just kind of that reminder there on your coffee table that there is an election, and fill out what you choose and return it at your earliest convenience.
Well, you guys are really getting good at this. Are these things that the Board of Supervisors have to decide on?
Correct. So in Sacramento County, the fact that I am appointed, this position's appointed, I'm not elected. Some counties, they're elected registrars and county clerks. But because of that, we did have to get board approval. And of course, the board has to always approve the budget. So they want to look at what this means, and obviously for the constituents. So when we went to the board, we saw cost savings in a new voting system, and also the fact that 2/3 of our voters were already voting by mail. And we were having election day only polling places set up where only 4 people would turn out all day. And this was in 2016, where it was presidential. Wow. And we still had 4 people at one polling place, 12 people at another. And it was a lot of time, resources, and people to get in order to conduct an election legally. Yeah. So when the Voters' Choice Act came, knowing how hard it was to continue to get locations, we used to need 550 polling places under the polling place model. Now we have 84 vote centers. And for those 550 polling places, 3/4 of them were hardly used, but we still needed the 3,000 people to work on. We needed those locations. And as schools become harder and harder to obtain due to security concerns, understandably, this was something that we wanted to take advantage of in 2018 and try it out because we had such a hard time in 2014.
So it seems like, there's an increase in expenses because you're mailing out every ballot, right? So there's an increase in cost there, but there's a reduced cost also. So is there an overall savings because of this?
Yes. So the initial, where we're seeing the savings is, yes, our ongoing costs, because you're right, that while there's an increase of the printing and productions on the front end, the cost savings we have in the setting up the locations, training and staffing 3,000 people, because now we use about 1,200 people. We are definitely seeing cost savings there. And also the initial cost for a new voting system was only just over $3 million. If it was a polling place model, it would have cost us about $8 million. Oh, wow. So there was a savings up front there as well. And like you said, kind of the more we do it and the more we refine our procedures, the more cost savings we're seeing.
Well, and Sacramento County is a trailblazer because we were one of the first to adopt this. Now, are you hearing from other counties around California to say, hey, how'd you do this and how did it work?
Definitely. And in fact, we, the fact that all counties were doing it for this election due to COVID-19, we heard from counties large and small throughout the state. And it helped us too, to be able to talk through processes, procedures. What's your idea? How did you make this work? What was your procedure here? We definitely think it was mutually beneficial. hear from them, hear from us, and to refine our procedures, because it was new and we were working out some of the kinks. So
Sure.
we're definitely seeing with each election a more efficient, accurate process. So we're feeling pretty good moving forward.
Okay, there were so many gears in action during this one. What was the biggest pain point? Like you went, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening.
You know, I think for me, well, it's hard to say because I feel like, there was so much work going into the COVID-19 preparations as far as creating, first of all, procuring the equipment and PPE we needed, setting it up, creating procedures from scratch on how to conduct safe in-person voting during a pandemic. So for the preparation, that COVID-19 planning really took a large part of our summer and fall to plan for. But I think, after the election, well, every election I get accused of all sorts of, fraud and shenanigans, which I understand. But I really, the volume that I've received this election and the threats against myself and my staff has been the most challenging aspect that we've seen. And again, while we always hear frustration and concerns about our processes, which is healthy, our process should be questioned. That's why we're public. We're a public office. The voters have a right to know what we do here to maintain the security and the integrity of the election. But the volume of the accusations is something that we haven't experienced, or at least that I haven't experienced in my 16 years. I do think, just like after the 2000 elections, there's going to be some sort of federal and state changes with elections after this one. Elections are always a work in progress. We've never conducted elections with this many people before. Our population is at an all-time high. Our registered voter count is at an all-time high, not just here, but nationwide. So trying to accommodate for that in a short timeline, that we have to get everything ready and proofed and distributed, can be challenging. So I look forward to future conversations and discussions on how we can improve the process. But for those that do have concerns about what we do, I invite you to come in, watch what we do. You can even come in now if you want to review our ballot batches. You're more than welcome to. So feel free, come on in, hang out. You do have to wear a mask, but come on in, hang out, and we'd be happy to have you.
Well, and anybody that is voicing some frustration, there's kindness that should be brought forward. You can complain and ask questions, but you can be kind also. You don't have to be threatening. You don't have to be in that negative space that's harmful to the good people that are working in your office, doing the best that they can. And under threat and threats of violence, it's not good. It's just, it needs to stop.
Thank you for saying that, Tina. I appreciate that.
I mean, there's just no reason. You can be upset with things and still be kind, and thoughtful, and not violent seeking. So did you have to get protection?
No, I did not have to get protection. We did work closely with all of our local law enforcement agencies. We had to go out a few times with some of our poll workers that were threatened. We had to send some local law enforcement out there, and one of the locations I went out as well. So right now, our office is next to the sheriff's department. So they are right there if anything's needed. And, we are taking precautions where we park is in a secured place. Right now we're doing okay. So no.
Well, that's good. So
yeah.
I hope that nobody acted on anything. There was no, even as spray painting or anything. I hope that nothing like that happened here.
We are lucky compared to other jurisdictions that got a lot more of the direct threats. We did have obviously some folks do a lot of yelling and cursing. and saying, my whole staff should be fired. We are, because of concerns of my staff safety, we are, like in our Public Records Act requests, we are redacting staff's name. So if you have any concerns, you can come to me, but my staff is being extra protected right now. So, but again, feel free to address concerns. But like you said, let's have a conversation about it, see what we can do to improve.
Yeah, right. Identify the pain points, have a discussion, and build consensus and move forward. You don't have to be threatening. Right. There's just no reason for that. In Sacramento, Sacramento County is such a wonderful county in spite of the problems that we have, and every county has problems. So talking about problems, here you had the election, COVID, and the census. I mean, this is like three hugely competing forces for the public. Right. How did all of those? I mean, here you've got more people that turned out. Marvelous job, I've got to tell you, Courtney. I'm so impressed with how Sacramento County did, and it's everybody in your office. Tell them that there's so many people appreciate what they did and how it all got done and how smoothly. I mean, it appears to me to be very smooth. I'm sure you're inside going, "Oh my God, no." But it appeared to be smooth. You had lots of media coverage, which is great. They're always looking for those little moments to see people counting votes and putting them in the machines and getting them counted, opening, and all the things. What's one of the biggest things that people forgot to do on ballots?
I would say, even this time, our voters that forgot to sign their return envelopes, which usually happens with mail ballots, even that number was down from previous elections. I think we were at like 0.5%. And so we really saw, as voters got used to mail ballots in Sacramento County, we saw a lot less rejected ballots. And I think the fact that we've also, the postmarks, we saw the timely turnaround from our United States Postal Service, which I know we were worried about going into the election.
Right, and there's that too. So talk to me about Sacramento Post Office and what your relationships are with them, and how did you develop those?
I am so grateful. So we have a great relationship with our local representative. And, even in past elections, if we saw like ballots weren't being postmarked from a certain zip code, we'd contact them right away. They would respond, get right on it. So by the time election day came, everything was being postmarked correctly. And, they do checks to make sure all ballots have been sent out, that any undeliverable mail comes back to us. And this has been, years of relationship making with our representatives. And our main hub comes out of West Sacramento, and they service kind of the greater Sacramento region. And, I just feel so grateful. I mean, we were seeing 24-hour turnaround time. We're seeing postmarks one day, in our office the next. They were on top of it. And like voters, like I think some community partners, we were all concerned about the timeliness of the mail. What was that going to look like, especially because of COVID-19 and how that could affect any staffing levels. So we were very grateful for the great work that the United States Postal Service did to support this election.
So were there any that were late? I mean, do you have access to the number of late arrivals that? What's our rule? They have to be postmarked by November 3rd? What is Sacramento?
Yes. So as long as they're postmarked on or before Election Day, and for this election, due to concerns about the United States Postal Service, they had to be in our office by November 20th. So it gave 17 days for the ballots to get here, but they still had to be postmarked on or before Election Day. In the past, it was 3 days afterwards. And so we did, receive, I think it was over 1,000 ballots that were postmarked too late because they were postmarked after Election Day. So we still see those. But for the most part, as long as they're postmarked on or before Election Day, we did receive them in that following week. So I think we only had 2 military ballots that we received that week right before November 20th. So again, that timeliness of the mail was huge.
So developing a relationship with the postal people here in Sacramento, that's really important. How did they tear down any equipment in the Sacramento area? You know, like we were hearing on national news that they were taking off those. Do you know about that? I should.
Yeah, so we actually, when we were seeing reports of that, we reached out to our representative, and they had not either removed any of our post office boxes of the blue boxes, nor did they remove any processing equipment. And in fact, there was one post office box that kept getting flooded with ballots. And when we told them about it, it was in the downtown area. They were right on it, and they did more pickups. So they were able to increase their staffing levels to support the election, which was really huge. So when we heard about that, we did reach out to them. They said that is not happening here. We didn't see or hear reports of it either. So I think, again, we were very lucky to be where we are.
Oh man, you know, it's all of these moving parts. And so when is it that you really kind of chill down? Has it happened already? Did you have to wait until the beginning of December before you just kind of, oh, thank God this one is in the bag? Or is it still, are you still working on numbers and
Yes, we are still compiling our statistics. So California, for a presidential election, we have 28 days to get the presidential numbers certified in. So December 1st was our deadline. That is when we certified. And at that point is also when we do the state required manual tally audit of our ballots, where we randomly select precincts to make sure they were being counted correctly. And we also do all of our reconciling procedures, making sure that either the number of envelopes that we have in-house or the number of those that voted in person, we have the same number of actual ballots. So we reconcile all of that to make sure everything balances before we certify. So that process, does take a little bit of time to do. But we were happy that everything checked out, everything was verified and completed. And so we certified on the 1st, but we're still getting, concerns and questions of, that we shouldn't have certified, that the election was a fraud, that we're a fraud. So I do expect that to actually continue through the new year. So I don't know if I can really say it's in the bag. I think what's come from this election will probably be feeling for time to come.
Well, and what a huge learning opportunity. Sticking points and the issues that come up, a lot of it is conspiracy theories and what can you do with that. But I'm sure that you're getting many, many things where you can do a better job.
Absolutely. And you're so right with that, where we had there was an accusation that we lost votes, that a candidate lost votes this election. And so we decided, because of that, we're like, oh, well, let's go ahead and post every update we've done so they can see how the votes changed for every time we tallied the results. So that's now on our website at elections.saccounty.net. So you can see how the votes have increased. No one lost votes, but you could see how the votes increased. So it does help to, try to work towards that transparency, to improve with more information, get that information out there so folks can review it, access it, and track it. So those things actually have helped us, and also tighten up our procedures. How do we want to handle this? What do we do in the cases of, for example, if someone, has a witness sign their envelope and they forget to sign. And, there's all these kind of scenarios that came up that really do help us moving forward.
Yeah. So we have just a little bit less than a minute. Is there, when do you sigh? When are you going to,
I'll probably sigh a little bit when I'm making Christmas cookies with my mom and taking a nap under
Well,
the
and
Christmas
cracking open
tree.
that bottle of whiskey or wine or whatever it is that you drink while
Yeah,
you're making the cookies.
some
Uh-huh.
Oban Scotch sounds pretty good right
You
about now.
know, I just got a bottle of it for Christmas from a family member. So I have
Nice.
to say thank you. Thank you to you and your staff. I know that you are relatively new leadership there, and I have to say that your leadership has changed the way that people see the registrar's office. And tell them all thank you. They've worked so hard. Hang in there with the negative comments because everybody isn't negative about what you're doing. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for all your support this election. It means so much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. That's it for today. We'll see you next week on Tuesday at 11. Until then, enjoy this beautiful California weather. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.